Good morning. In the last 10 days or so, I've been giving reflections on the different Gospels. But this morning, I was very moved by the Holy Father's homily at the Domus Sancta Marte. And so I wanted to share with you his homily from this morning. An English translation doesn't exist, but he reflected on the first reading, which was taken from Exodus chapter 32, the story of the fashioning of the golden calf. And so I want to just do a kind of an off-the-cuff translation and share the Holy Father's thoughts with you. In the first reading, there is a scene of the mutiny of the people. Moses had gone up the mountain to receive the law, and God had given it to him in stone, written with his own finger. But the people became annoyed, and they made recourse to Aaron and said, "But this Moses, he's been gone for some time, and we don't know where he's gone. We don't know where he's gone, and we are without a guide. Make for us a God that will help us to keep on moving ahead." And Aaron, who later on would become a priest of God, but here was a priest of the stupid, of the idols, he said, "Okay, give me your gold and silver. Give me all the gold and silver that you have." And they gave him everything, and with it they made a golden calf. In the psalm, we heard the lament of God. They have made a calf in Oreb. They prostrated themselves before a statue of metal. They exchanged the God who was their glory with a figure of a grass-eating bull. And here in this moment, when the reading begins, the Lord says to Moses, "Go down, because your people who you led out of Egypt, they have become perverted. They have not delayed in deviating from the ways that I indicated to them. They have made a golden calf, and they have prostrated themselves before it, and they have offered sacrifice to it, and they have said, 'Behold your God, Israel, who led you out of the land of Egypt.'" It was a true apostasy, from the living God to idolatry. From the living God to idolatry. They didn't have the patience of waiting for the return of Moses. They wanted something new. They wanted something of a liturgical spectacle, something. On this, I want to stop and pause to mention a few things. First of all, the idolatric nostalgia in the people. In this case, they thought back to their idols of Egypt, but they had a nostalgia to return to idols, to turn to something worse. They didn't know how to wait for the living God. This nostalgia is an illness. Even we have this illness. One begins to walk with enthusiasm, the enthusiasm of freedom, but then one begins to complain. But this is a hard moment. We're in the desert. I am thirsty. I want some water. I want some flesh. But in Egypt, we had onions. We had the good things. And here we don't have anything. Always idolatry is selective. They thought back to the good things because they didn't want to see any of the bad things. In this case, they thought about the tables that they had back in Egypt and the good foods that they had and which they loved so much. But they forgot that it was a table of slavery. Idolatry is selective. And then there's another thing. Idolatry makes us lose everything. Aaron, in order to make the golden calf, asked them, "Give me your gold and silver." But it was the gold and silver that the Lord had given to them when he said, "Ask the Egyptians for their gold as a gift," and before they went away. And it was the gift of the Lord, and with the gift of the Lord, that they made an idol. And this is, and the Holy Father's word is bruttissimo. This is the most ugly thing. But this mechanism also happens to us. When we do things that lead us to idolatry, we become attached to things that distance us from God. We make another God with the gifts that the Lord has given us, with our intelligence, with our will, with our love, with our heart. We use God's very gifts in order to make idols. If someone were to say to me, "But in my house, I don't have any idols. I have a crucifix. I have the image of the Madonna. They are not idols." No, in your heart. This is the question that today we must ask ourselves. What is the idol that you have in your heart, in my heart? Where is that hidden going forth, where I feel better, I feel good about myself, but I distance myself from the living God? Also, we have this attitude with idolatry, a very clever one. We know how to hide the idols, just as Rachel, when she fled from her father, hid them in the saddle of the camel and amongst the clothes. Even we, amongst the clothing of our heart, we hide so many idols. The question that I want to make today is, what is my idol? What is my idol of worldliness? Idolatry reaches even to piety, because these things, they sometimes, we don't want to make a circus out of them, but we make out of them a golden calf. We make something to be adored out of them. We prostrate ourselves before them. Idolatry leads to a mistaken form of religiosity. So many times, worldliness. This worldliness is an idolatry. It makes us change the celebration of a sacrament into a worldly feast. An example, I don't know, we think, I don't know. Let's take, for example, a celebration of a wedding. You don't know if it is a sacrament where truly the new spouses give everything and they exchange their love before God and they promise to be faithful before God and they receive the grace of God, or whether it is a show of models, looking at how each person dresses, each one and then the other and then the other. Worldliness. It is an idolatry. This is just an example, because idolatry never stops. It always keeps moving ahead. Today, the question that I want to make to all of you is, what are my idols? Each one has his own. What are my idols? Where do I hide them? May the Lord not find us at the end of our lives and say to us, you apostatized. You deviated from the way that I marked out. You prostrated yourselves before an idol. We ask the Lord for the grace of recognizing our own idols.